Gentlemen, congratulations once again.
Thank you.
This was a momentous announcement here. The crowd was interactive, people were excited. How do you feel about the reception?
I really was humbled by the reception. We put a lot of work into this, my campaign team and I, and it was very anticipated because people were wondering when are you going to announce, when you're going to announce. So having it in a forum like this where it's serious, where we can allow people to hear what we have to say, because we want to be elected as leaders who have ideas, who are backed by the people, and actually have a support from the public to do some of the difficult things that lay before us.
All right. Obviously you guys seem to be, jiving very well. The relationship seems to be great. How long have you known Senator Roach?
I've known Senator Roach for quite some time, but I had the opportunity after my lieutenant governor committee did the vetting. His name came up number one, and I called him up just to have a conversation, to really get to know him. And we spent almost like 2 hours sitting and talking around carnival time last year. And I really was inspired by his earnestness, no pun intended, and his real passion for the people of the Virgin Islands, and I was inspired by that.
Senator Roach, how long have you known Albert Bryan, and what is your sense of the relationship between both of you?
Well, I'll just take it back a little further. When I came into the 30th legislature, Albert was the Commissioner of Labor. So he would come and testify before various committees, and I was always impressed how he handled the department, how he engaged the members of the legislature. And further than that, there were instances where he gave comments on particular bills that I had sponsored. One comes to mind, it's an education initiative that would provide tuition to the University of the Virgin Islands. I think in our more recent conversations with regard to the candidacy, I think one of the things that I gravitated to was his idea that he wanted to create a partnership, and that even though the Lieutenant Governor has a statutory responsibility as the Commissioner of Banking and Insurance, you certainly take advantage of whatever other knowledge such a person brings to your team. And I think that was a very, very good approach that he framed for our discussion.
So you guys would consider yourselves friends at this point?
I would say so. I mean, I feel like you're a friend, but I feel like I honestly feel like we're to a point where we're good acquaintances, but a friendship is something that takes time. It has to be tested. It has to meet tribulation and trials, and it has to meet triumphs as well. And I think over the course of the next 8, 9, 12, 9 years, call it what you may, I think we will forge that, because one of the things that we both hold dear and we discuss at some length is the value in disagreeing agreeably, and the value in having a difference of opinion and knowing that you see a perspective that is different from yours, because that is the only way you truly learn and you truly grow. So I look forward to the trials, because I know we won't agree on everything, but I know that we can have a conversation about where that disagreement meets to a way we can go forward.
I think there are requirements of friendship, and so one of those that Albert touched on is the tolerance of differences in opinion. And my friends know to tell me if I'm messing up. That's what I respect in friendship, and I think Albert respects it too, because I think that's how you keep each other grounded and on the narrow path, to be able to differ and to be able to say, hey, I really think we should be doing something.
So let's talk about some of the discussions you've had, very pertinent issues you discussed here, especially what the territory is facing. You spoke of what you would like to do, our roads, our education, healthcare. One of the major concerns, however, and we are all acquainted with this, is where do we get the funds from? We have ideas, but we don't have to go through our financial issues, foreclosed from the market. Just in a very difficult position right now as a territory. How do you suspect, or what do you put forward relative to getting the funding to make those issues, what you spoke of, a reality?
In the Virgin Islands, funding is not the real challenge I see, and I say that because, we've had the ability in the Turnbull administration, when he couldn't make the budget in 2002, I think he was $165 million dollars short. But maybe 3 years later, the budget had doubled. Why? Because we really had a tax incentive program that exploded. And in my speech, I mentioned that we exist now in a situation where 80 people, 80, pay $126 million in taxes. So in order to expand our tax base, that number used to be 146 back in 2007. Now, if we were to want to expand the amount of money coming into our tax, the first and obvious one would be to expand the amount of high net worth individuals that are coming to shore. And the second one is to move people from income tax brackets that are below the point where they actually have to contribute a lot of money to get to the point where they're earning the salaries where they could contribute to the economy and help us do some of the things that we want to do with our infrastructure. The harder thing to do is to bring quality jobs and put people in them, because whether people like it or not, it takes time to be trained to be a police officer, a nurse, a doctor. It takes time to train a teacher. So the first thing we have to recognize is that education really is the basis of our economy, because if we don't have people who are self-sufficient and that can earn, then we don't have an economy. We could put all the layers on top of it we want. At some point, that money train will run out from the states, and we'll be with a stagnant economy, with people who don't have disposable income, and small businesses can't thrive, just much like we're doing today.
I think I would add to all of those valid points one concern that I have, and that is how we perceive Virgin Islanders. If you look at the community survey that the university does, it indicates that there are probably upwards of 60,000 people on the United States mainland who say that the Virgin Islands is their place of origin. And I think what the monies are going to come in, especially now that our economy is going to transform into more of a construction economy. And I think what we ought to do is we also should be vigilant in making sure that some of those Virgin Islanders who live outside of the territory and who have the relevant skills that we need, that this is also an opportunity for them to come to the Virgin Islands and to participate in the reconstruction of the territory. And that way our population benefits, our people benefits, and our stock of human capital is reinvigorated.
So what is the distinction, or what would a distinction be between your administration and that of the current administration, Governor Kenneth Mapp? He's speaking of the rebuilding of roads, a variety of projects, of the influx of federal dollars, and all some of those things you mentioned as well. What would distinguish Bryan Roach administration from what we currently have right now?
Well, that's an excellent question, and I really like that, because one of the key things is consistency. I don't think that we've had a clear and consistent message from our commander-in-chief, so be it our governor. From when he started, he said he wasn't for public-private partnerships, and now he's trying to maintain them. When he started, he really attacked the EDC programs and some of our hotels and stuff that were trying to get up on their feet in the lagging tourism economy. Now he's trying to promote that. Before, the governor said that he wasn't for waste of energy, yet he was trying to burn all of the refuse debris from the storm. And he said he was for fiscal responsibility. Then he started to give raises and buy sheets and do a lot of things that are not in accordance with somebody who was really serious about getting a fiscal structure back. For us, I think that the one thing that we realize is, because we can't borrow money now is the time when we have to leverage our resources with private partners in order to get things going, much like we did at the Port Authority 50 years ago when we got into agreements with hotel owners and port facilities, the seaplane, the seaboats. They built facilities on our land, and now we own them because the time has passed. We got the benefit of the economic development without having to put up so much capital. We're back in that situation now. I think that's what we have to do. The other thing I think as an administration that differ from the current administration is that we have purpose. Our vision, our 10-year vision, is to be the best in the Caribbean in tech, talent, and tourism. And everything that we do is going to be moving us across those lines. It's a difference about having and being a governor that has purpose, and an administration that's focused on providing a system of goods and services that provides the highest quality of life to every Virgin Islander. And most importantly, I'm of the belief that the Virgin Islands government is not in the business of making money. The Virgin Islands government should be in the business of collecting taxes. And in order to collect taxes, we have to facilitate business. People want smaller government. Let's double the private sector. You double the private sector, the government now becomes not 30% of our population, but 15%. And that's the way we have to think. We have to convert the way we think in order to compete in this global market today.
Senator Roach, I had an interview with the governor just yesterday, and we spoke on a variety of issues. One of them was, the current campaign season and how we perceive it to be. He said what he's hearing is that some candidates are saying he's not a nice person, and what I got from him, what I perceived was that was laughable. It wasn't something serious to him. How important do you think one's character and demeanor and leadership is to the territory?
I think once you step into the public light, you have a responsibility to the public. You have a responsibility to your children and to all of those around you to carry yourself in a way that exemplifies leadership. It occurs in the way you speak. It occurs in the manner in which you interact with people, because you can diffuse problems in your society by virtue of better relationships between people. And it starts with leadership that recognizes the value of that. People may not perceive disrespect in all the ways that I perceive it. So one is the obvious way of how I engage you and how I speak to you. The other thing is if I deal with you in a respectful way by being honest and transparent with you, that when I say to you the things that I'm going to do, I actually intend to do them. So if I come back and I tell you I went to China and these are the products that I expect from China, then I watch to see where that leads to. If you tell me you want $1 million to develop a hotel proposal project on St. Croix, I expect you to come back and tell me what you've done with this $1 million toward that initiative. If you tell me that you intend to provide a package of reforms to GERS by a certain deadline before the hurricanes, and I wait for that to see what those are, and you don't provide them, that is a level of disrespect as well. So in my view, it happens on many levels. And what I would like to see with regard to the question that you asked earlier is an administration that deals and engages with the public in an honest, transparent, and respectable manner. That's my answer to the question.
And since we pivoted on GRS, we haven't quite heard any solid plan as to how to save the system. We know, it may collapse by or before 2023. We know the story there. The current administration hasn't quite put a lot of thought into, at least they haven't announced any solid plan as to how to save it. What is the fix, Brian? What do you feel is the fix for GRS?
If I knew that, right, I'd be. I mean, we've given this a lot of thought, and to be honest with you, I really have not gone over this with Tregenza yet. It's something that we're going to call town meetings for. But what we propose is to realize that no one is going to give us $3 billion. That's totally ludicrous. It's not going to happen. We can't even borrow now for basic needs and investments that would actually generate revenues. So what I propose is to prioritize the people that have already retired. So you freeze the system where it is and you make sure that the people who are already retired are sound, that their payment will never go down. The people who have not yet retired and are vested in the government over 10 years, they stay exactly where they are, but they continue to contribute. So if you have 10 years, 15 years, whatever salary you are, that's where you would retire at. Now, in order for us to make the system work, we must move the age to 65 for you to read. You can retire, but you can't collect till you get a certain age. Unless you're disabled, you can't work or some other. But the key thing is once you freeze the system, you reduce the overall liability. So you have a smaller amount of money to borrow. How do you get that money? A couple of ways. Crucian rum is not even on the top 10 selling rums in the world. So more rum production, more rum drinking allows for more revenue to the territory. Diageo is on that list, but we need to help them make more. The more rum people in America drink, the more money we make. So expanding our distillation and making sure that the money that we're already paying them for marketing is being used for that to expand the rum cover we're getting back. Secondly, attracting a new distillery to the Virgin Islands. Let's face it, even if we give up half the revenues, we're still going to bring in 50 million. 50 million is enough money for us to secure another loan that would secure the GRS and make it solvent again for a number of years. And then third thing, we have to look at our research facility. More and more, now I was just reading that 2 more Caribbean islands are looking at cannabis and marijuana in terms of legalizing it. But if we just legalize it, we don't make money. We use our research facility to establish the first ever in the United States registry for cannabis products. Now, people think about smoking, but there are pills, there's edibles, there's lotions, there's a lot of things that are being patented now using strains of cannabis and all the different types of strains that they have. There's really no registry where those strains are at. So it'd be just like you having a McDonald's franchise, right? If everywhere McDonald's franchise is sold, McDonald's makes money. Everywhere that registered cannabis product is sold, the Virgin Islands makes money. I figure we could get a stream of money coming from a variety of states that have already legalized different products in this and be able to give them not a 90%, but maybe a 60% discount. That extra money there is all we need in order to secure that GRS payment. But we have to admit the system, the benefit is too rich. We would have to take some sacrifices. So in the people who are not vested, we have a mixed group where we combine a hybrid. So you have some sort of GRS, maybe we freeze the system for 10 years. We really need to go in and look at it with the actuaries and then reopen it again. But we have a 401k. Right now, the government is matching you 2-to-1, right? And sending your money to GRS or not sending it according to the GRS. What if we match your money 1-to-1? The government will still have that extra 1 to put in the GRS to make sure that it stays solvent. $290 million a year comes out of the GRS to make payroll. And it's very complicated. And I would never seek to simplify it. But we do have a pathway in order for us to look at securing, which is most important, securing the golden years of our public servants and making sure that the people who are paying into this system actually have a return on their money at some point.
Just a few more questions. A lot of people would argue that we had 2 storms, Category 5 storms in September. And the current administration has been doing its job and trying to get things moving. We would not necessarily want to change administration. We would rather stay with the current administration. Of course, you have a plan to lead, both of you. What would be your counter to that? Why do you think that you should be elected to take the responsibility that the current governor has and move forward with it, even in a better way?
For 3 years, the MAP administration has had over $80 million of road construction repair money to use that they have not been able to effectuate. Mr. Mapp and his administration stopped every project. They stopped the waterfront project in St. Thomas that added the new dock. They stopped the Paulie Joseph project in Frederickstead. The Mandel project never went anywhere. The Coral Bay project still stands languishing. Every single thing, step by step, department by department, this governor dismantled our government, and to the point where none of our systems work. And then failure to prepare for a hurricane. We have a territorial emergency operation plan that nobody seems to know what happened, that prepares you from day one on January all the way year round, what to do when you have a hurricane. We have experienced 6 months of people shooting from the hip because they were not prepared, and excuse after excuse and failure after failure from Vitima, which started off, to education, to our healthcare system, to our port authorities, to labor, failure. No one is leading this ship, and one by one they look to address all of these issues. We had a system here where we were masters of disaster. We handled it. We were a mess in Hugo. We did better in Maryland. And storm after storm, we got better. This administration has dismantled our government and has no direction. What can you say that the MAP administration has set out to do from day one that they have done besides what has been accomplished? And you say, yes, we made it through the storm. You're supposed to. That's what you're responsible for. Many people are suffering and continue to suffer. Right now we have the chance, and I don't think that it's a coincidence that after 100 years and the celebration of our very transfer from the U.S., we are wiped out to the ground. Somebody is saying it's time to start over. And this time we need GPS, not a map.
Catch myself. Excellent answer, I have to say. So you say that people might think that we should let the management in place remain in place, and I actually fear the opposite. I fear that the money will be dangled before the people as a reason to keep an administration in place, and I think that's not good. Because if you even look at the management of the money, the last education hearing we had, they hadn't even entered into a contract, and that was just a week and a half ago. They hadn't even entered into a contract to bring the modulars to the territory. And these are the modulars that we expect to be here to ensure that we don't have double sessions again in the facilities that we have that have impacted the delivery of instructional, the amount and the quality of instructional services to our children. So I don't see any issue of stopping in midstream if we can improve the delivery of services and ensure that these monies are used in a way that don't generate political gains.
Senator, I'm going to ask you this one. You wanted to? I want to ask you this one, and before we close out, one last one for you. But you're about to exit the Senate. Whether, especially, you could make it through the primary. How do you feel? What type of feeling is it?
Well, if you go back to when I started in the legislature, I have done a variety of work. I had a career as a journalist. I had a career as a university professor. I did administrative work at the Board of Education. I had a career in private practice as an attorney. And when I started my campaign initially, I always said to the people around me, this is not a career. I do not go to the legislature to rest. I don't intend to stay there for 20 years. I think it's a place you go to, you bring good ideas, you try to get them through, and then you leave so that other people can come and get their opportunity to put their ideas into action as well. So I had always said it would be 3 or 4 terms. If Almighty God said I should stay more, then I would. And if the people said I should stay less, then I would. If the people said more, then I would. So it is an opportunity, I think, for other people to bring their ideas to the fore. And I regard the institution highly. I think it's important. My idea when I went in was that I would try my best to uplift the public dialogue, to carry myself in a way that would bring integrity to the legislature and to bring good ideas to it. And it was never intended that I would stay there forever. So I leave it, I think, having made a contribution to it. And of course, we have months to go. Still, and critical issues that will come before us. And I pledged in that regard to continue to deliver the kind of service, to give every bill that comes before me my fair and reasonable consideration, and to always make a decision that I believe to be in the best interest of the people of the Virgin Islands.
Senator, thank you. Candidate Bryan, we've had leadership from the governor going on 4 years now, and he's led in a certain style. I've experienced it because I'm always there. When he ran, the tone was a bit different. But I've always said that people run and they bring a certain demeanor, a certain face to the public, and then they become leaders and they forget that they were elected to serve, not anointed king or queen. That has always been an issue for me, because you realize the tension that it becomes fraught because of a certain separation. What type of leader would you commit to be to the people of the Virgin Islands?
You know, one of the most dear things to me in my work career that I really appreciated, I had an employee that had a problem with their supervisor, and they wrote to me. Well, they wrote to me about it. Actually, they wrote to the supervisor, and I happened to see the letter. And in the letter, it said that the supervisor had disrespected them. And they said, even the commissioner of this department treats everybody in here with the respect due to a human being. And I think that everybody under him should give the same respect. We have a layover from a military rule. We have what you call a very top-down government. The world has changed. Government, business, private practice, entrepreneurship, it's about collaboration. I know you have a problem when I come to you and you're not bringing the people who do the work into the conversation to get their input. We have to realize that at the highest parts of government, you're far away from what actually goes on the ground. You need to talk to every person along that. Our whole system of central government is broken. We have commissioners that don't act or act out of fear. I think that you have to understand as a leader that opposition is a great thing. It keeps you on your toes and it shows you a perspective you're not looking at. You have to understand that on your team, you all cannot think alike. You all must have different ways of looking at a problem. So when you come up with a solution, that negative person is going to tell you everything that's going to be wrong. Those are the things that you have to do to make sure that they don't happen. That positive person is going to paint a rosy picture. That's good. Those are the goals that we should have. That realist is going to talk about all the hard work that's involved. That's good because everybody knows what's needed for us to move forward. But real team, that starts with a lieutenant governor, that's a partner that's going to sit to the table and we're going to discuss the issues that are affecting us. That brings real talent to the table, an attorney, a publisher, an editor, an author of a book, a senator, a committed Virgin Islands citizen. We're looking for hard-working people who want to sit together and figure out how we could get this Virgin Islands where it needs to be. People who care about people understand that you're not going to make the money you're going to make in the private sector. If you want to stay there, but definitely you're going to be able to disagree with this governor and not lose your job. You're going to be able to disagree at the table and make your case respectfully. And then when we move from outside that room into the public, we'll have a plan that's unbeatable. One that is understood by the best of them, by the worst of them, by the richest and the poorest, black, white, Indian, Chinese, whatever you may be. We'll have that perspective. That's the kind of leadership I want to bring to the Virgin Islands. And that's the only way we could truly build a Virgin Islands for all of us. Not just for some, but for all of us.
Mr. Bryan, thank you. Sir,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.